Welcome to the Job Fair, where we give job seekers and employers the space to tell their own stories and bring our listeners along for the ride. We're your hosts, Doug and Shauna. Let's dive into it.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 9 of the Job Fair.
Welcome back, everyone. Episode 9 indeed. All right, we want to take a quick pause and give huge thanks to each and every one of our loyal listeners and followers. Thanks for your support, everyone.
Shout out to our supporters who've come along on the Job Fair journey with us.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to keep running it up on y'all as we always do. But without further ado, today, we're excited to welcome the brilliant, the talented content editorial producer extraordinaire, Odochi Ibe.
Yay.
Welcome to the show, Odochi.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
We're excited to have you here.
Odochi, despite her beautiful name, goes by Odie for short. So we'll be referring to Odie as Odie moving forward here. All right. Pleasure to have you on, Odie. As a quick refresher for our listeners, Shauna and I created the Job Fair as a space for job seekers and employers to flex what we believe is the most important muscle in today's job market, the power of storytelling.
Odie, as we shared, we have a little tradition here before we dive into episodes, which is our fun segment called Agree to Disagree.
I love that.
As a reminder for guest episodes, we tweaked the game just a tad. Instead of the normal 2 questions each by Shauna and myself, we have 3 questions in total, with Odie, Shauna, and I asking 1 each. All the rest remain the same, with each of us choosing strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree. All right, shall we, Odie?
I'm ready to go when you are.
Let's do it. All right, I'm going to kick us off. Social media is a viable tool for effectively marketing yourself in the job market.
Ooh, that's a good one. I am a strongly agree. I'm an agree because it depends on what your medium is. If you're someone who works in media, you definitely can use it to your advantage. And we see lots of other professionals using social media to show their expertise and kind of have an outlet for themselves outside of the traditional workplace. So I think it can be advantageous to your career.
Absolutely agree with you as well as this question. You know what? I also forget that LinkedIn is social media. And if you think about it in that sense for the job market, it's extremely effective and useful, right? Compared to like maybe Instagram or TikTok or something. But yeah, agree with the statement and agree with what Odie said as well.
And I disagree with this statement. Social media, in my opinion, that's not what people are there for. People are there to crack jokes, post memes. I think that commingling, trying to get people to take you serious as far as being a potential employee, I think there's other ways to do it. Networking in person, and there are dedicated spaces like LinkedIn for this kind of promotion. So I disagree. Not strongly, but I disagree. There are some edge cases, but yeah.
Of course you do, Doug. Oh, moving us forward. So the next one's kind of fun too. Tipping for retail service is appropriate.
Ooh, this is definitely a controversial question.
Spicy.
I am going to say it's definitely appropriate. It is not mandatory, but I think that anytime you're being serviced by people, that giving them a little tip goes a long way. I've worked in retail, I've worked in food service, I've worked in various customer service jobs, and I definitely would have appreciated a little $2 sent to my Venmo or something just for the work that I'm doing. So I will say I agree.
Oh, this is controversial. It's a hot topic, but overall, I disagree. It's not appropriate when it comes to keyword retail service. Now, the question is retail service the same as is service? If someone goes above and beyond, I could see maybe a barista deserving a tip. But if you are ringing me up for buying a pack of gum, come on. I'm not tipping you for that. That's how I feel personally.
Okay. So we have a split vote here. I'm So I've also worked in both retail as well as like food and beverage industry as well. I could definitely see it for food and beverage industry. Retail, I think I'm going to have to agree here with Doug and say that I disagree, even though I did work in that space. I agree. I do say though that if someone goes above and beyond, I could see passing over a tip. But it is very awkward when it does feel mandatory and you get it on the screen and you're like, don't watch me push. No. I think that is where we have a little bit of inappropriate within the world. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm rooting for you to continue enforcing those boundaries. Don't care what people think. If you're pressing no.
Yeah. Even if they're staring over you, look away.
Cool.
All right, so I think it's my turn to ask a question. And this one, I do have lots of thoughts and feelings about, so I'm very curious what you all think. Your career doesn't need to have a purpose.
Ooh.
Oh, boy. I'm going to disagree with this. If you're going to devote that much of your life to anything, it should have some sort of purpose. Now, does it have to be my directly aligned sole purpose for being on this earth? Maybe not, but you should not be devoting that much space and time in your life to something that serves no purpose. So that's why I disagree.
Okay. So I think as I've grown and gotten older, I would agree with this statement that your career doesn't have to have a purpose. I think if you would have asked me in my young 20s a little bit more how I thought about careers and jobs in general, I felt it did. So I think it has come with growth and over time and just experience that I've grown, that I don't think you have to have a purpose. I think there's a lot that comes in my life that's outside of that. I still want a career that I love and that's successful.
So I feel like I disagree. I don't strongly disagree, but I disagree. I think that a career means it is something that is purposeful to you versus a job, which is just, I'm going to this place, I'm getting a check, I'm going home. And if you are working in a career, you want to be doing something that's fueling your passion, fueling your purpose in whatever way that means. Because as someone who's been working since I was like 15, 16 years old, and having a job that does not feed your purpose definitely is soul crushing and can lead to all manners of frustration, anxiety, and unfulfillment. So I do think your career needs to have a purpose for you, and whatever that purpose may be, whether it's your soul purpose, your heart's purpose, but like a purpose-driven life, I think is important.
Absolutely. And yeah, just to close this out, I think you mentioned something that was really important. The difference between a job and a career. Yeah. Jobs become careers when they're sustained long enough. Quick thought.
That was fun. Thanks for playing along with us today, Odie. But now the real fun begins. I'm excited to learn about you, learn a little bit more about your story. So why don't you kick us off with a little pitch about yourself and tell us who you are and all that background jazz.
All right. My name is Odochi Ibe. I am a 30-something Brooklynite from New York originally, born and raised, originally from Long Island. And then I left to go to D.C. because I went to HU, the illustrious Howard University, where I majored in print journalism with a Spanish minor. And I've been so grateful and thankful that I've been working consistently before graduation, but since then I've been working alongside of media, tech, editorial, dipping my toes in really across the landscape. I am a writer, event producer, DEI consultant, advocate, mental health advocate, podcaster. I'm a Gemini, so I am a multi-hyphenate. And right now I am really focusing my career and what I want to do next in my career to really be what my passion and my purpose is. I love to just talk about what are the parts of society that we need to work on and unlearn and grow and change to create a more equitable space for everyone. I'm a Black, queer, neurodivergent woman. So there's a lot of intersections in my life where I think we could be doing better. And I just want to be the person who helps other people realize that. I would say the one word that I would describe myself as is passionate. I'm just passionate about life, about justice, about people, and creating the life that I want using all of the skills and talents that have been bestowed upon me.
I love that story. I love that pitch so much. So I guess as we think through breaking that apart a little bit, tell us a little bit, you've done so much. Were there specific chapters in your professional experience, roles, or even your education that you feel stood out, and why?
Definitely Howard stood out for me. One, just because it's the Mecca. You get so much Black thought and intellectualism, and the Black diaspora is just there with you. Me, growing up, I was always in private schools because my neighborhoods that I lived in were disenfranchised with not great school systems. And being in those spaces, they were very white. I don't think I had a Black teacher until I was in 11th grade. So going from places where I was constantly defending my Blackness or defending the multitude of Blackness as a whole from people who were just not aware, whether they were Black or white or Latinx, etc., there was just so much ignorance, to coming to Howard and having just everybody there. That was really significant for me, to feel like you're going into a classroom and you're having these discussions, and not once am I having to be the advocate for every Black person or every Black woman or woman, etc. As a kid, feeling like I was the little Asada Shakur. And then I came to Howard and was like, oh, everyone has a voice, and we're speaking truth to power and wanting to create change. And it just opened my eyes to things that I didn't even realize. And one thing that I love about Howard, it's like when you go there, you are like a caterpillar, and when you come out, you have bloomed into this beautiful Black butterfly who has such a pride and confidence in yourself, in your work, and what you can do. So that I would say is definitely the biggest influence in my career today.
Interesting. Super interesting. Sounds like Howard was definitely formative to the professional you are today. I do have a follow-up question here. It sounds like maybe you discovered this at Howard or maybe throughout your career, but what would you say are your superpowers at this point, and how exactly did you discover them?
Oh, I have a lot of them.
Give me your top three.
All right. I would say that being neurodivergent is a superpower. It doesn't always feel like that. Sometimes it can be frustrating, but I think being able to see the patterns, the way that they connect in different ways than other folks, being able to understand the multitudes and duality of people, and also just having a love for people and wanting a sense of justice for everyone and wanting everyone to be treated equitable and being able to get their fair share and what they need and basic human rights, which is, I know, a controversial thing to say these days, but just really being focused on power of the people and what we can do to get together when we're in a collective community on the goal of enriching everyone's lives versus a choice few.
The other thing that I want to follow up and ask there is, now that you sound like you have a pretty good grasp on what your strengths are, as far as it pertains to employment, talk a bit about what the ideal employment scenario for you looks like. And I mean that in terms of type of employer, the physical environment, excuse me, in person, remote. What does that all look like for you if you had to describe your perfect employment scenario?
All right. Perfect employment scenario. I have two of them. The one side is me working for myself, so being my own employer, and that is freelancing, consulting, speaking for places, producing the type of events and content that I love and want to see out there in the world. And I will say, definitely for me, remote work is very important when it comes to working. The environment that I'm working in is very important to my productivity, my focus, my internal anxiety. So it's important for me to have that freedom and the option, because I'm someone, at my previous role, I was the director of culture for the New York Black Employee Network. And so being able to like go into the office to create spaces for people to come together, talk, learn, grow, support each other is important.
So just listening to you speak, and again, just a broad background, and you've had a lot of meaningful roles, and you've done a lot that aligns with your passions and similar to what we were talking about before, your purpose. So I'm curious, when you think about the future, what is it that you're targeting in terms of a role?
I'm targeting something where I can be creative, where I can work with people and find a way of fixing those pain points that are there, whether they're in the workplace, in the process, and just create a better work environment for everyone. I think that when we were talking about earlier of having a passion and a purpose in your work, I think having my hands in two pots has always been something that's helped me get things done, and being able to bring new ideas, new perspectives, because when I'm working on the things that like I'm creating, that brings more insight to what I'm doing for someone else because they haven't had experience in the various mediums that I have.
Got you. And speaking of expertise, what would you say you've done in the last, say, year or so to improve your knowledge and savvy as it pertains to your expertise?
I'm a former Black girl in tech. So working in tech, that gave me a lot of kind of inside perspective on the ways that I need to grow and develop myself. So spending a lot of time learning about the new tech out there, learning about generative AI, what that means for people who are working in media and content, how to use that to improve your work, to simplify your work, and just making sure that any of the different tools that are coming out, that you're staying abreast of them. I love going to conferences. I love going to workshops, not just for the networking purposes, but just finding out what's out there, what's new, what are the things that people are doing in these various spaces, because sometimes you could get so siloed in doing one thing that you don't realize what new advancements are coming out.
So I love so much of your storytelling. I want to get one last question in before we start wrapping this up. I'm curious for you, Odie. Can you share a time that you failed and what did you learn? How did you learn from that?
I'm trying to think. So a time that I failed, I'm not going to say that I've not failed because I feel like I've had tons of failures and tons of rising up like a phoenix from the ashes. I got the opportunity to work in the editorial space, running a website and the social media, and I was like living the dream that it was my dream job. But as I got into it, I realized that the workplace was not the best environment for me. And I felt like a failure because I didn't meet the high expectations I had for myself, where it's, I'm going to do this, and next thing I'm going to get some sort of Pulitzer. I'm going to be getting all these awards for my journalism. And that was a great learning experience for me because, one, my expectations for what I believe is great journalism and hard work they didn't blend with the employer. I'm a perfectionist and I am an idealist that thinks anything is possible. And when I left that job, I felt very defeated that I wasn't able to create the change that I thought the company needed and that the content deserved. And I think that one thing I've learned throughout my decade plus career is you should go where you are wanted. You should go where you are celebrated. You should go where you're empowered. And you don't have to stay in any company, regardless of how big it is, what the name is, how much money you're making, if you are not feeling happy and fulfilled. Because from my perspective and my experience, you trying to force yourself as a round peg in a square box, a square peg in a round hole,
Yeah.
like you're never going to fit, and you're going to be constantly doubting yourself and believing that you're failing and believing that you're not doing enough, when in reality that was not the place for you. So you have to take the knowledge that you gained and go and bring that somewhere else.
I love that.
I think that's a great way for us to wrap up, Odie. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was really a pleasure to hear your story and learn about your career, your strengths and weaknesses, and what we can expect from you. I think you're going to light it up, to say the very least.
I agree.
Just want to give you some space now here to share with the audience where we can find you and how we can stay connected.
Awesome. You can find me all over social media. On Instagram, it's that's OD. It's that's OD.E. And on Twitter, it's the same, except it's an underscore and not a period. You can follow the Black and Snerdy podcast. It's Black and Snerdy, SNERDY, because we are black and sexy and nerdy. And you can look for my new YouTube page and podcast that will be coming out this month called That's OD, where I talk about my life being who I am, the rainbow bright unicorn that you see before you. And you can go to my website, www.odochiibe.com, and see the work that I've done.
It's been a pleasure to have you on our show, you human Starbucks Frappuccino unicorn. but thank you again, Odie. We really appreciate your time. Want to give a shout out to all of you listeners today who tuned in. Thank you. Make sure you go check out our website at www.thejobfair, that's FARE.com. Shoot us a message. We're actively looking for new guests for our show. Odie is number two of a million, as far as we're concerned. All right. So definitely check us out. Shoot us a line if you're interested. We're inviting job seekers and employers alike. All are welcome to the virtual set to share your career or company journey.
That's it from us, everyone. Episode 9. See you for episode 10, which is the wrap of our first season. Cut.
Cut.
Hi, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Thanks, Odie.
Bye.